It was very early morning, 6 a.m. I couldn't sleep as I lay down on my bed. I wasn't comfortable there for some reason. It was just one of those early mornings, I guess. I tried my couch, but alas, I couldn't sleep. My mind was plagued with thoughts of what happens when there's nothing else to think about. Why can Raikou and Suicune use Scald, but Entei can't? It's the year 2024, and yet Kyurem still doesn't learn Ice Punch. Why are Licklicky and Silvally the only normal types who can learn Explosion, despite always slacking off? Why can't Snorlax learn Slack Off? These thoughts infested my mind as I couldn't sleep in any position, on either my bed or my couch, no matter how hard I tried. It was 7:30 a.m. I needed to get up in a few hours, but I needed at least a little bit of sleep. And so I tried sleeping on the floor? The ground? The ground floor? I've given up on a proper punchline. This is a ground type video. No electrics allowed. I'm not gonna be a part of their system. Pump that garbage into another man's face. Oh yeah, Mistmagius, Pokemon Crystal Clear, and Windwaker HD Let's Play. Links will be in the description below. Anyways, let's get started now. Quagsire is a Pokemon that has gotten stronger over the years, both directly and indirectly. Not only was Bro eating when it got Water Absorb as an ability, which, let me tell you, that buff still scars Gen 4 Ubers players, but the physical and special split was amazing for it. Finally, it could play physical water moves. Scald is busted and it got it in Gen 5. Adding Unaware to its kit in Gen 6 made it even sillier, because now it could stand up to Mega Charizard X and Aegislash like it was nothing, while destroying them with Recover and Earthquake without any ounce of difficulty. Its more indirect buffs came from its surroundings. Mostly, it's returned the true relevance back when Zacian was allowed in Gen 8 Ubers as the one true counter to it. And then in Gen 9, when a bunch of non-poison types lost Toxic, Quagsire was one of the winners who got to keep it. So I'm proud of him. Even though he's always been a lower tier Mon, everyone knows who he is. Sure, Clodsire has kind of replaced him, but I like to imagine Clodsire and Quagsire are too stupid to know that there's competition between each other and are just very good happy buddies. I consider Gligar to be a Pokemon that has gotten pristine glow-ups, and has aged better than a lot of Pokemon introduced in Gen 2. Mystic, I'm sure you mean Gliscor, you're probably wondering. And no, I mean Gligar itself. Gligar getting immunity while no Toxic Heal was pretty neat because it prevented it from being poisoned. Getting access to U-Turn in Gen 4 was awesome, and access to Roost made it almost a Pokemon. But what really intrigues me, and something I will always enjoy about Gligar, is just how good Eviolite made it. Sure, Gligar was never really bad beforehand. UU in Gens 2 and 3, and NU in Gen 4 was fine. But in Generation 5, a generation where everything was getting stronger and more powerful, all Gligar needed was an Eviolite in a generation with no knockoff to be a UU-mon. This is the same UU as Sheer Force Nidoking, Suicune, Regenerator Slowbro, Mew, Zapdos, and Darmanitan, and I find this to be utterly fascinating. And even when Megas and Knockoff got introduced, it stayed in UU all the way up until Generation 7. And had it not skipped Gen 8, it would be UU there too. And had it kept Roost in Gen 9, you know exactly where it'd be to this day. The only real notable buff in Gen 9 that it got was Spikes, which is kind of alright for it, but I'd personally rather take Roost back. But the fact it's still good in Gen 9 NU, despite the crazy stuff in there, tells you just how much Eviolite did for it. I mean, access to Shell Smash and loaded dice, alongside Terra, the change what it's weak to on the dime, is the buff. I don't know what else you want from me here. Headlong Rush actually, yeah, That's pretty impactful because Earthquake admittedly wasn't cutting it, and Headlong Rush leads to a lot stronger of a damage output. People actually thought this Pokemon was better than Infernape for a little bit because of these amazing new tools they gave it, while Infernape didn't really get much at all outside of like knockoff. It's made a pretty solid life for itself in Gen 9 RU, which is an accomplishment all things considered. So I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Good job, Torterra, and keep sweeping teams, buddy. Now, Garchomp is a weird one in terms of the buffs that it's got, because there aren't that many, and for good reason. Garchomp was an amazing Pokemon for 5 straight generations, before Gen 9 loaded up so many mons that are better than Garchomp that it causes me to lose even more sleep at night than I did in the intro to this video. But all things considered, what they have given it for the buffs it did get were at least impactful for a little bit. The Mega isn't good, I know, but at the same time, said Mega is an incredibly good Pokemon if you're playing with a friend who doesn't know how to use any other team style but Sand. Scale Shot is one of the best moves ever made because now Garchomp can increase its speed, and Loaded Dice trades the item slot to give it a base 100 to 125 power attack. Not to mention, attacking weak armor Pokemon with it is actually kind of funny. And of course, they gave it spikes, which is nice if you like playing defensive Chomp. Technically, it has gotten stronger. It just sadly isn't an OU demon anymore, is what I would say. But hey, you know me, I will continue to believe in the unlikely stuff, because imagine if I'm right and Garchomp somehow climbs back up again. So, the Groudon buffs that come to mind from me, because yes, there are times where Game Freak sought to buff Groudon as a means of apologizing for taking away Permanent Sun, have all been incredibly impactful buffs. Now, I don't know every Groudon buff, so I'm just gonna go over the ones I do remember and how they have changed its playstyle. Stealth Rock in Gen 4 made defensive Groudon even more real. Primal Groudon was the strongest Uber back in its heyday before they realized that maybe giving this Pokemon a water immunity is a bad idea. And then in Gen 9, they gave it what could be its best buffs yet that don't involve giving it a new form, Will-O-Wisp in Spikes. While Spikes is cool, Will-O-Wisp is the part that actually catches my eye. It isn't much, but it goes a long way in being able to cripple some of the absurd physical attackers and Ubers. Hazard stacking defensive Groudon with Will-O-Wisp that also sets up Sun for Fluttermane, Chi-Yu, and Ogerpon Hearthflame is quite literally my lifeblood, and I have no problem admitting it. I am quite sure the only buffs they ever gave Gastrodon were Storm Drain actually being a useful ability, and Scald existing. Actually, wait. I'm lying. This is yet another Pokemon that randomly got spikes in Generation 9. This, of course, is incredibly impactful when you realize that it's currently living the dream as an amazing special tank and hazard stacker in UU, even though they took Scald away from it in Gen 9 and never gave it back. And yet, they gave it to a Alomola. I will never understand. Either way, nowadays, Spikes, combined with its bulk, recover, and chilling water, if you really hate physical attackers, has somehow made it more of a UU Pokemon than quite literally Staraptor, the former king of UUBL. Every buff Gastrodon has is impactful, and they gotta quit buffing it. It astounds me the lengths they have gone to buff Flygon to try and make it even remotely better than Garchomp, all of which have failed. U-Turn in Gen 4, Dragon Dance and First Impression in Gen 8, and then in Gen 9, they give it access to the new Alluring Voice just to punish a setup, and Psychic Noise just to break stall strats. They really want you to use Flygon, and badly. And the best part is, some of these buffs have been impactful and have kept Flygon relevant in the lower tiers, where there is ultimately no Garchomp to compete with because Garchomp is still better. Now, in my opinion, the buffs that mattered most were U-turn for pivoting, First Impression for priority, and Dragon Dance letting it actually pull off sweeps. These all give Flygon a sense of versatility that it otherwise wouldn't have, and therefore it's unpredictable, unless you just have really good instincts and deductive skills for figuring out the numerous sets it can play. Swampert is a Pokemon that, ultimately, Game Freak only really ever buffs when they see fitting. They kind of knew that Swampert was the best starter ever back in Gen 3, and for the most part have buffed it rather sparingly. And it's typically for the sake of keeping it a bulky utility mon. The only time they ever sought to change that was in Gen 6, where they gave it a Mega Evolution with Swift Swim and made it a Rain Sweeper. But other than that very strange time in history, where they wanted you to play offensively with their Swampert, they typically have asked you to play a more bulky variant. Stealth Rock in Gen 4 was huge for it, especially since it resists rocks itself, so it can keep coming back and setting them if they're removed. Damp in Gen 5, while not crazy, prevented some cringe explosion strats, just in the same gen where explosion got nerfed and no one cared about it anymore. Access to Scald was something back when it had it, and in Gen 8, they decided to give it Bulk Up, Flip Turn, and Body Press, which made playing it as a utility defensive mon even more rewarding. And to really make sure Swampert can do what's needed as a utility mon, they gave it Knockoff. So now, it can remove Boots, which makes its Stealth Rocks even better. This truly is one of the utility Pokemon, and I appreciate that since Gen 8, they haven't tried to, I don't know, drastically alter its playstyle again. I mean, you guys know what Nidoking got already. It got Sheer Force and Sludge Wave, and that's all that mattered. I do not remember it using any other moves for over like 13 or 14 years now. It wakes up, hops on the Showdown, pulls up to the function with either Life Orb or Choice Scarf, depending on what its team needs, and then uses boosted Bolt Beam coverage, and then it stabs to hit quite literally just about anything in the game. Despite its low stats, Sheer Force was somehow all it ever needed to be considered a Pokemon. And even if the lack of buffs to its stats kind of sucks, I also don't want to imagine a world where they gave Nidoking respectable stats to go with that Sheer Force. Do you guys really want a Poison Landorus Incarnate with some of the best coverage imaginable? I don't. Alright, now that we have discussed a more grounded topic, let's put our heads back in the clouds. What's your favorite flying type? And how offended would you be if I used 1,000 arrows on it? Answer me in the comments. Zygarde, in my opinion, is one of the legendaries with one of the biggest glow-ups of all time. Bro really just went from some snake guy who can't even tangle with the legendaries it's supposed to keep in check, to being a super Megazord with the power to, at the very least, 1v1 Yveltal. Xerneas still beats its ass though, with 0 difficulty. 1,000 Arrows quite literally made Bro playable. Almost nothing being able to switch into it without taking damage no matter what actually made Zygarde go from worse than Garchomp to its own version of Garchomp, where it has its own stuff that differentiates it and makes you want to use it over Garchomp. Power Construct though? That ability basically let Zygarde undergo Mega Evolution at half health and become one of the best physical walls in Gen 8 Ubers. It is very hard to kill Zygarde at 100% power, and I am glad that they did my boy some justice. I just wish that it had, I don't know, more than 100 attack in any of its forms. I'm sorry, but the fact that a freaking giant mech dragon gets out-muscled by a small ogre with a cute face and Cudgel does not make any sense to me. Maybe next time they bring Zygarde back, they can make 100% have like slightly more power. Like an extra 12 to its attack won't hurt. Alright, now that I'm reading the comments for flying types to ignore the immunity of, I can now sleep peacefully. It was getting hard to sleep with all those damn birds making noise at 9:30 in the morning. Oh. Looks like I'm just gonna have to tough today out.